is Katie Carson, and I am the Duchess of Suds here on this channel. One of my most popular videos last year was the DIY sugar scrubs, and so I am making another Christmas DIY, and this time it is for glycerin soap. Now, whether you're an advanced soap maker or you've never made soap before in your life, this video is going to be easy for all parties concerned. I'm going to leave all the links to everything that I purchased online in the description box below so that you can get them. And it goes without saying that you can substitute most things in this video. The fragrance oils, the colorants, if you want to use a different brand of melt and pour. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about supplies. The first thing you're going to need is a microwavable pitcher like so. Now, if you have 3 of these, that would be ideal because then you won't have to wash them in between layers of the soap. But if you only have 1 in your kitchen, that's fine too. You're also going to need a spoon. Plastic or metal is fine. You will, of course, need soap molds. So these 2 are from moldmarket.com, and I have perfectly tailored this recipe to fill 6 cavities. So if you only want to purchase 1 soap mold, you can half this recipe and make it twice. Or you could get 2 soap molds and make the whole thing. Or if you don't want to spend that much money on these molds, I will leave an alternative option down in the description box below for a silicone mold from eBay that I actually have as well. It's very, very comparable in the sizing and it's much cheaper. You're going to need some sort of digital scale. This one that I have has seen better days for sure and is from brambleberry.com, but I will also leave a cheaper alternative in the description box below. And you're going to need a plastic spray bottle. This is a 2-ounce plastic spray bottle that I got from Walmart. It was 50 cents. Now for your ingredients. You're going to need 9.2 ounces of white melt and pour and 18.4 ounces of clear melt and pour. If you don't have white melt and pour, you can make your own by putting white mica in clear melt and pour, but it's not going to be as opaque. Just a heads up. These are the 2 colors I use when making white melt and pour. I use Velvet Pearl from Nurture Soap Supplies and Snowflake Sparkle Mica from Nurture Soap. And I put equal amounts of both of them into the clear, and it brings it to a very sparkly white color. Again, not entirely opaque, but it's better than nothing. You're also going to need some peppermint fragrance oil. This one is from Nature's Garden Candles, but I bought a 16-ounce bottle of it since I was using it for some of my other holiday soaps, and you probably don't want to buy 16 ounces of it because you're really going to need about 2. Therefore, I'll be leaving you a link down in the description box below to an eBay listing for Fragrance Buddy. Fragrance Buddy is a company I have used in the past and been really, really happy with, so that you can get just a 2-ounce size if you're only making this one recipe. As far as colorants go, we're going to be using red and green, and all of the colorants I'm using today are from TKB Trading, and if you're only making this one recipe, again, you can get sample sizes of these bottles for $1.50 a piece. The 2 reds I'll be using is Tomato Red Concentrate and Relay Race Red. And the 2 greens I will be using are Clean Your Room Green and Kelly Green. These next few ingredients are optional, but they make your final project look so cool. These are Jojoba Beads. Both of them are from Brambleberry, and I'll be sprinkling some of these on the tops of the soaps just to give it a little extra pizzazz. Also optional is glitter. I clearly need to refill my bottle here, but cosmetic grade glitter or biodegradable glitter also adds that little extra flair that really makes your soap unique and sparkly. Once you have your ingredients assembled, it is time to start making soap. The first thing that I'm going to do is take my spritzer here, and I have put the rubbing alcohol that I had available in here. You can use the 71% or the 91%, just whichever you have on hand in your first aid kit at home. And we're going to liberally spritz these mold cavities. Why? Because this makes the release of the soap a lot easier, so the soap doesn't stick to the sides very much. We're going to set these off to the side now and measure out 9.2 ounces of white melt and pour. I have cut the melt and pour up into teeny tiny little cubes. That's going to help it melt faster in the microwave. Then I'm going to heat this in the microwave for 30-second bursts until everything is completely melted. While that's heating up, if you decided to use jojoba beads, you can take your spoon, take a little tiny bit, just like that, and sprinkle it on the bottom of the mold. With these molds, the bottom is actually going to end up being the top of the soap, so you're essentially putting little sprinkles of green and red on the top of your soap bar. Now I'm taking some of the green, giving that a sprinkle. Then if you'd like to add a little glitter, as I always do, you can put that in now. After you've glittered to your heart's content, take your sprayer again and set this all in place with a few spritzes of alcohol. This is going to keep the little jojoba beads and the glitter as well from traveling to the top of the first layer. It took my white melt and pour about 1 minute and 30 seconds to completely melt. So now it's time to add the fragrance oil. I'm going to put this whole thing on top of my scale. Then I'm going to be adding 0.4 ounces of the peppermint fragrance oil. A little bit of this stuff goes a long way. Now we're going to stir that up until it's all completely incorporated. I recommend stirring about 1 minute. After everything's been stirred up and incorporated, it is time to start pouring in the molds. So the way that I like to do it, whenever I have little sparkly tidbits on the bottom, is to take my spoon and let it act as sort of a barrier between the melt and pour and the bottom of the mold, so that it kind of gently just drapes over all of the materials on the bottom. You still might get a few that bubble up to the top. There's nothing you can do about it, but just pour really, really slowly and let the melt and pour just kind of ooze over the bottom of the mold. Pour until it is just covered, because you can always add more, but it's way harder to take it out. And you want to make sure that you have enough for every single mold. Now I have a little bit of extra, so I'm going to look and see which ones have the lowest amount of melt and pour, and then gently add the little bit that I have left to the top of them. So pretty soon after you've poured, you want to spritz this layer with rubbing alcohol. This is going to pop all of the little bubbles that might be on top and help the next layer stick to the first one a lot better. Now you can take your empty container and clean it out with warm water to make it ready for the next layer. So now that my container is clean, I can measure out the next bit of melt and pour. So I'm going to be adding 9.2 ounces of clear for this layer, and then I'm going to be heating it up in the exact same method that I heated up the white. Okay, into the microwave it goes. I have already added the 0.4 ounces of peppermint fragrance oil, so now it's time to color this red. Now if you want to go for more of a cherry red, a Santa's belly red, I would use more of the tomato red colorant. But if you want to go for a ruby sort of oxblood color, use more of the relay race. Now I'm hoping to go a little more Santa Clausy, so I'm going to put 2 drops of the tomato red. And the relay race red isn't as strong, so I'm going to put 3 drops of that. And after everything has been good and incorporated, your final product should look a little something like this. And it is time to pour onto the first layer. Even though you've sprayed these before, I would recommend spraying it one last time just for good measure. And these have hardened enough that you don't have to use the spoon. You can just pour right on top. Remember, pour less because you can always add more, but taking it out is way harder. So once again, I'm going to look to see which ones don't have as much in them. And I'm just going to add the little bit that I have left. Now spritz with rubbing alcohol. Pop all those bubbles, and we're ready to clean out our container for the next round. Now I'm not going to film some of that. I'm going to go ahead and clean my container, fill it up with 9.2 ounces of melt and pour, heat it all up and add the fragrance oil, but I will show you me adding the colorant because that's the part you haven't seen before. When it comes to coloring your green soap, you can either use a lot of Clean Your Room green, and that's going to give you more of a kitty green, and if you use more Kelly green, that's going to give you a more opaque sort of grown-up green, and I think I want to mix just enough of both of them to make the perfect Christmas green. So I'm going to give a little squirt there of the Clean Your Room green. And then I'm just going to put in 1 drop of the Kelly green. After everything's mixed up, it looks a little something like this. So time to pour it as the final layer. So spray again once more with the rubbing alcohol. Then you can gently start pouring on the final green layer. Now for this green layer, just keep pouring until it is at the very top of the mold. Because this recipe was perfectly tailored for these molds, you know you're gonna have enough to fill up the entire thing. So just keep pouring until everything is filled up to the very tippy top. Once everything's been poured in, again, spritz it with the rubbing alcohol to pop all the bubbles. And now comes the hard part, the waiting. If you've never made any sort of soap before, I'm sure this is going to be one of the hardest parts for you. But I recommend leaving these in the mold for at least 3 hours. That way you know for sure that everything is hard and you're not going to dent your soap by taking it out. Now if you're making this at night, just leave it overnight. You will be so happy that you did. So I'm gonna let these sit and then I'll come back in 3 hours and we'll unmold them and talk about packaging. 3 hours have passed, so now it's time to unmold these. So here's how I like to do it. I like to do the ones on the edge first, and I pull gently on one side, and then I press at the corners, and you'll see the soap starting to release from the plastic, and then it should pop right out, just like this. Now, I wanted to show you guys something. If you don't clean the sides, or maybe you drip a little on the side of your mold whenever you're doing a layer, it is going to show up on the outside of the next layer. So make sure that all the way around, whenever you're pouring, you're not splashing any up on the side, because it will look a little something like this. Our soaps are looking mighty pretty, but now we need to package them. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate a beginner's version, or if you're just doing this for a hobby or just making soap for gifts and you're not doing this professionally or as a living, and then I'll make a version for the people who do soap crafting as a career. If you're just doing this as a hobby, you can take some plastic wrap. This is regular old plastic wrap from Kroger. Then you're gonna pull out a piece that's about as big as your soap. Then you'll take your regular old kitchen scissors and you'll give this a cut all the way across. It does not have to be perfectly even. You will not be able to tell after you have wrapped the soap. So you're gonna wrap this just like you would a present. So you'll just take your soap like this. You'll face it upside down. Then you'll pull the plastic wrap tight around the bar, just like this, bringing it towards the middle. Now you'll see I have too much up here, so I'm just kind of cut away the extra, and you'll pull this back. Pull it tight against the bar. I still have a little extra, so I'm gonna pull it over in the middle a bit. As you can see, we have some extra on the sides too. So what we're gonna do here is just pull it taut and tuck it in up on top, just like this, see? Then you'll tape this with a piece of clear tape, and you'll do the same to the other side. So just make sure that you're pulling it so that it's nice and tight up against the soap, and then you'll put another piece of tape on it. I've designed a little label for you guys, so if you want to download it using the link below, you can, and then you can just print it off on a regular piece of printer paper, cut it out, and then write who the soap is for and who it is from. So I'm just going to write real quick, to you from me. That being done, you can place it on the top of your soap bar and then just cover it in clear tape. Again, I'm going to be using packing tape because that's what I have laying around. But regular Scotch tape that's clear will do as well. So I'm just going to place that on the bar, smooth it out, and there you go, a packaged soap. And because you have the tape on top of it, your packaging is weatherproof. For those of you who want to try something a little more advanced, this is a piece of 6x6 clear cellophane. So you'll just take that, put your soap right in the middle, pull up the sides, stick a clear piece of tape right here, cut off the excess with your kitchen scissors, and then you're going to wrap this like a present. So you're going to push in the two sides, push in the bottom, and then push down the top. Put a piece of tape on it, Do the same for the other side. Now it's time to label. So you too can download this label that I designed if you want and erase all this middle portion, and feel free to put all of your own company credentials or whatever else you'd like to have on the label. The label is not copyrighted, so you are free to amend it for your own personal use. Then you can pop on over to online labels and purchase the correct label size for this. This is the OL 800WS. I got the white gloss for laser. If you have an inkjet, you'll get the inkjet version. White gloss is what I have found to print the best. So if you want to get the perfect label size and the perfect glossy finish, this is the label size you want to go with. And voila! Your holiday soap is now complete. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this holiday DIY. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and maybe even leave me a comment down below. And until next time, I hope you have an absolutely